The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by the Danny Did Foundation.
Hi, I'm Whitney Reynolds, and coming up on today's show, we are talking beyond the bump, when preparing is over and the baby is here. We're talking all things parenting. We have cool moms, celeb moms, and super moms coming on today's show. And then there's dad. We have a coach of the Blackhawks weighing in on the father's perspective.
Everything you said you wouldn't do before you became a parent, you do.
Every single part of your life changes.
Don't give up and keep trying.
And on a serious note, we're talking postpartum depression. You're watching The Whitney Reynolds Show. Well, our first guest knows a lot about parenting. She's a contributor for Chicago Parent Magazine. Let's welcome out Kelly James Enger. Welcome.
Hi, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
You know a lot about parenting. First of all, tell us your family situation.
I have 2 kids. My son will be 8 in June, and then I have a daughter who is 3, will be 3.5 in June.
How do you manage writing and also keeping up with the kids?
Well, I will tell you, as a working parent, you have to have childcare. And as a writer, there are a lot of, mostly moms, but some dads too, who decide, hey, I can write from home. What a great idea. Well, you have this fantasy that you will write while the baby naps. That doesn't happen. While the baby naps, you're exhausted, or you're cleaning your house or whatever. So childcare is essential. So when I have my sitting time, that's when I work. And then I also work at the Y a few nights a week, and then I have childcare for that too. But I think it's just, you can't do both things well at the same time. You can be a good mom, you can be a good writer, you can't do them both simultaneously. At least I cannot do them both simultaneously.
That's an interesting concept. So when you're writing, are you always writing about being a mom?
No, I actually write about health, fitness, and nutrition, and I didn't start writing about parenting until I became a parent. And the idea for my first story for Chicago Parent was when my son fell and broke his teeth on our kitchen floor. And I was such a careful mom, and if I could have bubble wrapped him, I would. And here he'd had this dental trauma, and it was my fault, and I felt terrible, and I was so guilty about it. Then I thought, hey, I can write about this, so I made money off of it, basically.
Such an interesting concept about what you were just talking about, if I could bubble wrap my kids.
Right.
I feel like a lot of moms say that with their first child.
Yes, you're much more protective and careful. You can always tell the difference between a mom who has one child and one who is on the second or third one, because you're so much more lax. Like, oh, he can have a cracker, it fell on the floor, here you go. Where your first child, you're sanitizing all the bottles and carrying a special bag around with you, and you go out the door with like 500 things, and then by child number 2, you have like a diaper and a wipe, and that's it, and maybe a bottle. That's just how it is. I think you're more confident in yourself as a parent, so you rely more on yourself and your gut and your intuition than all the tools and parenting implements that we have.
Would you say you're a super mom?
No, but I do have a Wonder Woman tote bag.
Really?
I do.
A Wonder Woman tote bag?
I consider myself more Wonder Woman than super mom, but yeah, there's a little bit of that in me for sure.
And what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned about being a mom?
Everything you said you wouldn't do before you became a parent, you do. I will never let my children watch TV. I do. I will always feed my children healthy food. They will not have junk. They have junk. I will never lose my temper with my children. I do. I will never yell. I mean, the longer you are a parent, the more you see, A, you had no idea what it was going to be like, and B, how much, in my case, I have become my mother. I have become my mother in every sense of the word, including, I said to my son this morning when he said that he wanted some toy, a Skylander. He said, all my friends have Skylanders, I don't have one. And I said, if all your friends jumped off a cliff, would you jump off too? And of course he said yes. I'm channeling my mom, what can I say?
I'm pretty sure my mom told me that same scenario.
Yes, they have the same scripts, they follow the same scripts.
So let's talk about Chicago Parent Magazine.
Sure.
What is it a resource for parents?
Of course it is, and again, it's something that wasn't on my radar until I became a mom, but you can be super smart, super successful in every other area of your life, but once you become a parent, it changes you instantly and forever. I mean, you are now a mom, you are now a dad. And the great thing about Chicago Parent is it's been around for a long time, almost 30 years. You can pick it up in, I think, 2,600 different locations, libraries, park districts, that kind of thing. But it's a great resource whether you have a new baby or whether you have preschool age kids or older kids. And what I like about the magazine personally is it's a kind of a mix of service and then of true life features. So it might be how to help your kid give up, his pacifier or whatever, and then there's a compelling story about my kid had cancer and this is how we, overcame it.
Well, you wrote an article that was really interesting. Are you a cool mom?
Well, first of all, it was my editor's idea. I would have never pitched that because I don't consider myself a cool mom in some ways. I will tell you that when I was growing up, my mom was the cool mom. My mom had me young. She was only 21. All of my friends were the youngest of big families. So their moms, and this was back when, being in your 40s or 50s was like being in your 70s or 80s. It wasn't like today where 50 is the new 30 or whatever it is. So all their moms were old, and my mom was young and cool and pretty and wore jeans, and my friends just all adored her. They were like, your mom is so cool, and my mom drove me crazy. Well, now that I'm a parent, I do want to be a cool mom, but to me, a cool mom is someone who doesn't lose her mind over relatively minor things, is spontaneous, and has fun with their kids. And I became a mom at a relatively late age. That's not how I planned it, but I do think I enjoy my children a lot more than I would have if it would have been an easier journey to becoming a parent.
So what are some of the questions that qualify you to be a cool mom?
Well, and this is funny because it really is going to depend on the mom. For example, there are several moms, my son's in 2nd grade, there are several moms I see every morning who are just dressed to the nines, their hair is perfect, they're so stylish, they're so fashionable, that I admire that because I'm not like that in my day-to-day life. I think one of the questions I said was, you're hosting a play date, and there's 6, 7-year-olds in your house and somebody breaks a lamp. What's your reaction? Number 1, you go in there and you have them clean it up and you say, go play outside. Number 2, you yell at all of them and then kick them out of the house. Number 3, you vow never to have a group play date again. So it's kind of like, what's your reaction?
What's the answer to that for being a cool mom?
First of all, there would be yelling, they would be cleaning up, and they would be outside. But next time I would think, okay, we're going to have an outside play date. So it's partly that. And then also it's kind of knowing what your kids are into. Like I mentioned my son, he talked about Skylander this morning. I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. So today we'll talk about it so I know what it is, because you can't, one of my friends has a daughter who's 13. She's on Instagram all the time. If you don't know what Instagram is and you don't know how kids are using it, you can't be an effective parent because you don't know what the pros and cons are or what the kids need to be careful about, that kind of thing.
I love that. Great advice you have given us here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
I feel like our next guest might be considered a cool mom. Let's take a look. Now it's time for the Social Sizzle. This is where we ask you at home to weigh in about the subject we're talking about. Now today is Beyond the Bump, so who better to assist us than a mom and a real housewife, formerly a real housewife of New Jersey, Dina Manzo. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Now this is awesome for you to weigh in because your daughter is 17, but she's always a baby to you, right?
Yes, of course.
And whenever we threw out this question to our followers, you knew immediately what your favorite thing was whenever you were a mom.
Absolutely. I just bought this yesterday for my girlfriend who's having a baby, actually any minute now.
Ooh.
When Lexi was little, I used to always, I love costume jewelry, so she used to always eat my jewelry and everything. And I was like, no, this is actually mom jewelry that the kids can bite on, non-toxic.
So moms can wear it.
Yes.
And babies can nibble on it.
Yes, and it comes in all different colors. I bought her pink. She's having a little girl, but you can buy any color you want, and they're so cute.
And it looks like
especially
it's
summertime.
easy to wash and keep clean and everything
Yeah,
else.
I love it.
Well, thank you. So we wanted to ask you at home what products you couldn't live without. And some of you weighed in with the Boppy Pillow, the video monitor, now that sounds like a must, and the diaper genie. Guys, if you want to weigh in on this question, make sure just to look up W3 Whitney and hashtag Beyond the Bump. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now it's time to introduce you to our supermom. Kara Caravu is with us. Welcome.
Hi.
Yeah, so you are a supermom for many reasons, but the part that caught our attention is the fact that you're a radio host and a mom. How do you do it?
Well, it's easy. I go to work and I come home to my kids like everybody else. It's a fun job, but...
Which one do you think is more of a priority?
Oh, definitely the kids. There's no question.
So how does that work being a working mom?
Well, you have to prioritize things. I think any mom, even if they're stay-at-home moms, it's the same thing. You have to set your priorities straight every day. So I know when I wake up every day, my kids are number one. And because of my job hours, actually, I go later in the day. So I get to spend the morning with them. I get them off to school. I pick them up from school. I get to spend a lot of time with them.
What do you think the biggest lesson is that you've learned over time with raising kids? Because now your kids are out of their toddler stages, they're growing up. What would you say the biggest lesson for new moms would be?
You know what? It's a challenge for me, but I would say don't yell so much, because you get mad, and it's tempting, but the more you yell at your kids, the less they talk to you. And I've found over the years, I want them to talk to me. I want them to tell me when something's bothering them. And if they do something wrong, I want them to learn from it, not just feel bad because they were caught. I want them to know why it was wrong. So try to explain.
I love that. Now, another thing is, one of the reasons we picked you to be our super mom too is you're a single mom. What is that like?
You know, I actually kind of like it. I mean, people always say, oh, that must be so hard. But if you're in a relationship with someone and you don't agree on parenting styles, that's not good at all. You have to be on the same page. So at least in my house, there's only one page. And actually, you know, me and the ex, we actually do agree on most things anyway with parenting. But I think it makes it easier. I'm the decision maker, I'm everything. So it's actually, I like it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So
Yeah.
you prefer it because you're able to kind of run the household how you want to.
Yeah, and I also like a calm, you know, not arguing type of a household. Obviously, if things are bad in your relationship and the kids are exposed to that, that's definitely not a good thing. So
Right.
I've seen it that way before I was a single mom, so therefore I like the single mom
Did
better.
you have outreach whenever you became a single mom? Did you connect with other single moms or something like that, or did you have like someone that guided you in this process?
Well, you know what? I tended to ask a lot of favors from neighbors, from relatives, even from relatives of my ex's family. You know, if anyone can help out with the kids or, you know, give me a hand. I mean, you can't do it all by yourself. I mean, it's nice to think you can, but it does take a village.
What's one of your favorite stories about being a working mom and also raising kids?
Well, because of my job. I mean, it's sort of a fun job, so they get to do fun things. My daughter actually got to ride in a float in a parade with the plain white tees and me, so that was pretty fun.
That is so
Yeah. So there, you know, sometimes I'm cool mom, not often, but at those moments, you know, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, and then with work, do you talk about your kids over the airwaves?
I do a little bit, yeah, because we have moms listening, so they get it.
Yeah. Do you give mommy advice on the show?
No, we play music. I don't preach.
We play music.
Yeah.
Last but not least, you've given the lessons of what you've learned over your time. You also gave your favorite story. But what would you say your goal is as a mom going forward, as a working mom?
You know what? I just don't want to feel like I regret anything. I don't feel like you don't lie on your deathbed and go, oh, I wish I worked more. You might think, I wish I spent more time with my kids, and I want to have great memories. And I think I am doing something right because we seem to be a happy unit, a family
Right.
unit. So hopefully we'll just keep on going and, you know, spend some time together and get along.
I love it. Thank you so much. And how does it feel to be a super mom?
It feels like an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, just as parenting can be exciting and fun, it can also be tough. And our next guest is here to explain some of the challenges that parents can face. Let's welcome Monica Garcia. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Now, you're a therapist and clinical social worker, and you have seen some of the challenges that parents face.
Yes, I have.
What are those? What do they consist of?
Oh, there's so many, Whitney. From trying to get your teeth brushed and get yourself dressed, stay organized, to dealing with the fact that every single part of your life changes. And even if you're ecstatic and joyful about that, you still have to figure out how to now be a working mother, a working father, child care, your relationships change, you have less time for yourself. There's just very, very many, and it can be very difficult and very joyful, and I think it's sometimes a confusing time for moms and dads because of that.
The 9 months, do you feel that's enough preparation for someone to know, okay, now I'm going to have a permanent child in my life?
I don't think there's any period of time that's enough. I think that parenthood is an evolving phase of life, and nothing completely prepares you. I think the 9 months helps, in particular with women physically, because I think they get used to the fact that their bodies are not themselves. They have to wake up in the middle of the night. They're uncomfortable, and these are some of the things that go along with, particularly in the beginning, taking care of a new baby. Your focus is on that baby, and at the same time trying to take care of yourself and continue all your other adult responsibilities. And there can also be a lot of loss and difficulty, because if you were working at a job, that's how you knew yourself. You had a routine, and you may miss that on one level, but also just be thrilled to have a new baby.
How do people press on when they do see these challenges? What do you recommend to your clients whenever they say, my life is completely changing, I don't know how to cope?
I think it's really important to continue to have support. I think sometimes when parents go through that change, they really need to be talking to other people that feel the same way. Social support, making sure they have people in their life, like any transition, that really care about them, are able to ask them what they need. Sometimes when we have people that have babies, we do what we think they want rather than asking them what's helpful. And also just reaching out for help and asking for what they might need, whether or not it's from babysitting to maybe talking to somebody if they're having a difficult time.
And you're talking to mom or dad here, that like
Talking
the
to
transition.
mom or dad, absolutely
Or any kind
both.
of parent situation.
Any kind of parent situation. I think that we focus on moms because they're the ones that carry the baby and have the baby, and in particular afterwards are dealing with even their bodies changing and hormones and that kind of thing. But dads are in there as well. Again, everything changes, and I also think that we're at a time where dads are so much more involved and need support and need that same help so that they can be there for themselves, their child, and their wife.
So speaking of moms, going back to what you were saying about hormones changing, postpartum depression, how common is that?
You know, it's very common. It's probably more common. It's one of those things that people are beginning to talk about, but it's carried a lot of shame in the last, 30 years back. I think in the last 10 or 20 years, we're able to talk about it. People didn't talk about it because you were just supposed to be happy. You have everything in the world. You have a healthy baby. Life is good. And we're taught that if everything is going well, that we're not supposed to struggle. And I'd like to challenge, the viewers as well as, my clients to understand that you can be joyful and really struggling, and both are okay. And you're not alone, and you will feel better. Postpartum depression and anxiety are definitely areas to be focused on and to get help on, but you will feel better. And you're not to blame. I think that's what the shame comes from. I think women feel like they did something wrong. Something's wrong with them, and it's not the case at all.
So talking through it.
Talking through it's really important. There's a hotline that is staffed by 24 hours by master's level therapists, and it's a really, really valuable resource, and I really encourage people to call that because they can talk to somebody and just vent, get some advice, get information on support groups, on online support groups as well, and also to get professional help if needed. And checking in with a friend, their doctor at their 6-week checkup or before. These things are super important. It's really all about figuring out what's going on and what you need, like anything else that happens in life. It's not about feeling like you did something wrong.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Great advice there, Monica.
My pleasure.
Well, we wanted to hear from Chicago, so it's time to take it to the streets and ask, what advice would you give to new parents? What advice do you have for a new parent?
I would say get as much help as you possibly can from your parents or your family or your friends. Hire a babysitter. Just get as much help as you possibly can.
I would say just don't take things so seriously. I have 3 girls, and with the first, everything we were so careful, don't eat off the floor, don't do any of these things, don't sleep on your stomach. By the third, you kind of realize that you shouldn't worry too much about that stuff, that, everything will turn out okay. So enjoy it more and don't worry so much.
Parents need to just relax and have more fun and less worry and stress about whether they're raising their kids in the right way.
For any new parents, my advice would be enjoy your children.
I have a great network of neighbors and friends, and we rely on one another. So we'll pick up each other's kids. We have play dates, and not only does that give you a break as a parent, it engages your kids with friends, and they have a great time as well. And then you're happy to see each other once you're back together.
Take time for yourselves and have date nights at least once a month. That's the one thing I wish somebody told me, because it's easy to get into a rut and not go out and spend time with your husband. It's very important for your family that you and your husband have time together.
Trust your instincts. You know more than anybody else about your baby, so trust your instincts and do what you can.
What advice do you have for a new parent?
I think the best advice I have for a new parent is to have friends that are going through the same thing that you're going through and get out of the house with them. Go find Mommy and Me classes, go to a movie where you can take your kid, go for a walk with the kids, anything like that. Just get out, do something, have folks that are going through the same thing that you're going through.
For a new parent, the advice that I would offer them is to spend as much time with your kid as possible. I think that you have to have a lot of patience when it comes to kids. You got to understand that kids have a lot of energy, and they want that same synergy back.
I think the most important thing is to love your kids with all your heart and to just try to set a good example for them.
enjoy every minute, especially in the beginning, and becoming a stay-at-home mom was another challenge that I went through. And I would just say get involved with different networks and find other people that are going through the same thing that you are, because I think the first year when you're home is when they're napping and you're kind of stuck at home for a year, and you just have to accept that, enjoy every minute. I look back at how quickly he's grown, and I just wish I could go back to the first 6 months and understand it's all, this too shall pass. And it's been a great experience, but just know that everything is gonna go quickly.
Well, our last guest is giving us the dad's perspective. He's a coach for the Blackhawks, skating and skills by day, but is not skating around the issue that you must be a 24/7 hands-on dad. Let's welcome Kevin Delaney. Welcome.
Hi, Whitney. How are you?
Doing great, but the question is, how are you doing it? You do sales, you do Blackhawks coaching, skating and skills, and then you also are a dad. How do you do it?
I just get it done, and I get good help from my wife.
So do you feel like that you must become a team?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so tell us a little bit about what your day looks like.
Well, the day is the kids get up before school, making sure everyone has their homework done and gets the house clean and gets breakfast and get them off to school. And then when they come home from school, they have their, again, hit the homework and then their activities and making sure they're carted around to the proper places.
So how do you manage that and work?
It's just a balance. You just got to get it done.
So whenever you go to work, do you still think about your kids while you're there, or would you recommend when people are where they're at, they need to stay focused and be present in the moment?
Well, they're your kids, you're always thinking about them. So they're always have a special place in my heart. But no, and on my mind. So yes, I'm always thinking of my next move with the children.
Well, what advice would you give for any dads out there that are feeling overwhelmed? I mean, you're kind of you're really shining some light on someone that can work, be a dad, do multiple things all at once. What advice would you give?
Well, a lot of people do it. It's just basically making sure that it's balance between, personal life and the kid's life, and you get some assistance. It can't be all done by yourself.
Now, would you say being a father is like having another job?
Yes.
But
being a parent is like having another job, but it's more rewarding than any other job.
I love that.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your family. How many kids do you have?
I have 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, ranging 12, 11, and 7.
What's one of your favorite memories of work and children?
Work and children?
Yeah.
My wife was busy doing something, and I had to do a presentation for work, so I brought all 3 kids with me to the presentation. My son was still an infant at the time, so it was interesting, but the customers remember it, so that's good.
How did that go over with everyone?
It went well. Of course, everyone loves kids. They're cute, so.
Now, you also do a hockey camp in the summer as well.
Yes.
Have you been able to get your kids involved? Are you able to be a coach and a dad at the same time?
So my son does play hockey, so he does participate in the camp, and my daughters are old enough now where they've actually been helping out on the administrative side and checking the players in when they show up to the rink.
Wow. Now, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in fatherhood?
Biggest lesson I've learned?
Yeah.
Would I have to say, don't give up and keep trying.
Being a coach and in the workforce, you can train for games, you can train for a meeting and prepare. But was there any kind of preparation to being a dad?
Just, it's trial and error, and it's just living. You learn every day. Every day I learn something new. So it's not something you can read all the books you want, but when you're in it, it's when you learn it.
What's some advice that you have for fathers or families?
It's a marathon, not a sprint, and it's definitely worth it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Whether your bump contains 1, 2, or more, the road ahead is going to be challenging. So whether you're parents or a team of 1, make sure to embrace this fun and exciting time. The 9 months is just the beginning. For more information on today's show, go to thewhitneyreynoldshow.com.
Cows like to go to the movies. Horses make pretty good neighbors.
A special thanks to the Gorilla Tango Theater, ECTV, STI Movers, John LeMay CPA, STEM Chicago, Sal's Deli, and K-Page Salon.
Hysterical. Cats think they're so perfect. Owls don't know who they are. And my donkey, he's abrasive. Sing the cows now. Let me hear you. Cows like to go to the movies. Horses make pretty good neighbors. Sheep always tie up my bedroom. And a dog's life is rough. Well, birds, they're just so tweet, 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 tweet. Ducks, they quack me up, quack, quack. Don't loan a toad your newspaper, 'cause he'll just rip it.
The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by the Danny Did Foundation.